What's up, everybody? Psych out here with one more last final Castle Crush video. I decided before leaving Castle Crush permanently, I would play just for fun, just for kicks, one grand tournament. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to play with this deck that, let me show you, it's not this deck, the deck that FRABELLO really made pretty famous. It's a deck like this. FRABELLO, as you all know, is one of the best Castle Crush players ever. #1 player in the world for a really long time. Was playing a deck like this. Played Specter Deck for a really, really long time, way before Boneyard and Skull Queen were even cards. He used to play Specter Decks. And he recently stepped away from Castle Crush for the same reasons that everybody's leaving Castle Crush, and that's because the game is horrible. But anyway, yeah, I thought, okay, I will play one grand tournament with that deck. Maybe if it goes well, make a video as my last video. It's sort of a sort of a send-off, or a sort of a ode to FRABELLO for his excellent play with this deck for so long. And people had asked me how to play this deck before. And so I thought, well, this will be a nice opportunity to show people how to play the FRABELLO deck. So I played one grand tournament. I said, okay, I'll just play one grand tournament and we'll see how it goes. And it turns out I won 10 straight matches to win the grand tournament. So here are the prizes, which I don't really care about because I'm not going to use them. Okay, 2 more necromancers. Another one of the cards that's helping to ruin the game. Okay. And the Fire Elemental, which is another new card, but who has time to try to grow new cards anymore? Anyway, okay. So, yeah. So that's what we got, which I guess doesn't seem so bad. Anyway, I want to replay the games. There's the new card if you haven't seen it yet. The Fire Elemental. I don't even know what castle it becomes available at. Let's see its stats there. It comes in and does a big fireball essentially to an area, and then it does some fighting itself while it's there. But it costs a lot of mana. You see it used a lot in overtime decks. I think if we check, see if Mort, I don't think Mort's played in forever. Yeah, so that's irrelevant. I don't know which OT players are up there. Anyway, yeah. So sorry, that's not what I meant to go to. Oh yeah, I can show you that. Well, that's not what I want to go to. Oh, so Palexi's playing a deck. Nope, he's not using it either. I thought he was using it earlier. Maybe he's not using it. Anyway, let me check that again. Yeah, no, I don't see him using it there. Anyway, some people have been using that card in their overtime decks. Yeah, so lots of people with 1 win, but 463rd person to get a win in the grand tournament. So yeah, you can see that it cost me no gems because I only played that one, and that's the only one I'll play. So okay, let's replay the game so you all can see how to play this deck. As you can see, it was 10 in a row. Oh, you know what happened? I forgot. That was round 2 because I accidentally hit battle on one of these in here is silly. I accidentally hit battle. Yeah, there. I accidentally played one of the Fire and Ice. You can see I played one of the Fire and Ice games in between. I didn't mean to do that, but oops, it was an accident. But anyway, so this will have to start with round 2. Let's go ahead and watch the game. So, basic idea of this deck is to use a lot of skeletons to crush your opponent. So you want to get them out quickly with Crystal and Mana Ritual. And now, see, a lot of people here would play the Mana Ritual. I think that's a mistake. What you should do is wait, get the Boneyard, play the Boneyard. The opponent gets a good square or good place for his Phoenix there, which is taking out a lot of my skeletons. And again, I'm waiting. I think a lot of people who play this deck wrong, much the same way people who play standard bearer decks wrong. They're not patient enough. They don't wait long enough, and you have to be patient with this deck. And my opponent definitely should have played the wind there to try to save that egg. I didn't even know he had another wind. That was a real mistake to not do that. Yeah, I really don't think my opponent's playing this very well. Okay, I probably should have played that back a little further in retrospect, but oh well. So we actually didn't get off to a great start this game, but the thing is my opponent is also playing one of these mana ritual-y kind of decks, which requires, which means he's going to run out of mana eventually. Here, I'm just putting out a Specter because I've got to stop that mage. Okay, so now I'm really don't have very good cards in my hand. So I'm just trying to burn some cards so that I draw 2. It's not looking very good for me here. But this deck, I mean, a lot of people think it's like, oh, it's a speed deck, but it's really not. It actually gets very strong late. As you'll see here, I'm able to play the Skull Queen, and then a little slower than I wanted, but I do get this out to attack that mage. I decided to play a Meteor there because I want that Black Knight to die. Unfortunately, he played a Meteor as well. Got a little lucky that he drew the skeleton there. And here is where, this is the tail of the tape here. We kill, yeah, killed that Black Witch and put him in a bad position. And even still, it's a struggle. He's playing a weird deck. I don't know why you would ever play Metamorph in a deck that also features Skull King. Too often you're going to have all your skeletons out there and a Metamorph in your hand, which is just really no good. You'll see here, we just kind of eventually wear him down and weigh on him. He will get that Black Knight out, but it's just not going to be enough. And we've got boneyards coming, and it's just too overwhelming. Ultimately, there was just nothing he could do about it. Plus, at that point, all I really needed was one more Meteor on his castle, and it was game over. So, I mean, my opponent played okay. Kind of a strange deck, I think, to have the Metamorph in there as well. But anyway, ultimately, we got the win. So you'll see that these games don't always end super quickly, just smashing your opponents completely and requiring a fantastic draw. Now, if you get a bad draw, they are really hard to play. And you'll see I didn't have any just horrible draws in this game. Here you've got kind of a choice. You can play the Skull Queen or you can play the Boneyard. I think in all of mine I decided to play the Skull Queen. But the idea being that then I can play the Boneyard on 5 mana, which I do here. I get a little help because those 2 skeletons stop that. See now this change that they made to the Skull Queen means that the level 1 Skull Queen dies to a level 7 statue or spike statue now. So yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure why my opponent played that. Oh, yeah, I guess I did. Yeah, I forgot. He did just get there in time. At for a second, I thought he wasn't going to get there in time. But in any case, at this point, my opponent's in big trouble. You might think, oh, I've lost my attack, but I really haven't because see how I'm holding those mana cards? I'm holding that crystal. I'm not playing that crystal. Now, that kind of stunk because, yeah. They kind of stunk that he got that out because I would have had a much bigger Specter than that. But anyway, at this point, I'm figuring all I need to do is get another couple of boneyards or things to the castle. And even though it's not been a smashing victory for me, I've been in control pretty much the whole game. There's not a lot my opponent can do. These Metamorphs, you really, my opponent drew a good Metamorph there. But you do have to get lucky with those. And, yeah. Now the skeletons are coming. See, again, I'm holding all these mana cards in my hand because I want to get as much as I can out of my boneyards when I play them. Again, pushing me back. The dragon is definitely a concerning card, but now I can get a big Specter out there to fight the dragon, and ultimately there's just going to be too many threats here with the Skull Queen coming as well. And yeah, it's just too much for my opponent. And again, I'm still sitting here thinking, even if all doesn't go great here, I'm 1 Meteor away from finishing my opponent off. So the first 2 games were actually fairly tough. Or sorry, that was round 2 and round 3. Round 4, This is one of those decks that you see a lot of in the tournament, a standard bearer deck. This is one with Storm Elemental, and you'll see that one of the keys is getting rid of that Storm Elemental. I faced 2 different Storm Elementals in the tournament, and that's one of the hardest decks for the cards for this deck to beat. Now here we're very lucky with the way our boneyard ended up, sort of handicapping my opponent, keeping him back at the wall. He does get the poison out. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. They push back the lane with the Skull Queen. You almost never want to do that. And this is why. Because now I have plenty of time to save her. And now it's all over. So this was not a game where my opponent got the Storm Element. It must have been a different one. Must be one of the ones coming up here. That was actually a relatively quick win. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, round 5. Yeah, so this is one of these sort of power decks. This deck's been handicapped a little bit by the nerf to Orc's Horde, which now costs 11 mana, which is much more reasonable. I'm sorry, the Orc's Horde was a ridiculous card to begin with. I mean, 10 mana for, I mean, the typical Orc costs 5, and you get 3 of them for 10. I mean, that's a ridiculous trade-off there. So here I'm just playing the skeletons because I've got nothing else to do, and now I might as well play Specter because my opponent's not doing anything. Okay, it's a little disappointing that that died. My Specter's not going to do well either. But again, this is one of those decks that doesn't have to win right away. Yeah, here I think I play a Specter. I really do want to get rid of that. I mean, that's the key card of this deck is that Valkyrie. So I really did want to eliminate it. There I did. Now I've still got a max hand, and look where that boneyard landed. That was just perfect right in front of that shaman. And now the pressure's on. Now he's got this ice elemental at my castle, which seems problematic. But as you'll see here, now that the Skull Queen's out, the ice elemental can't really stop these hordes of skeletons. And now I've got boneyards coming like crazy. Double boneyard. My opponent's completely pinned in. That demon can't do anything against all these skeletons, and it just was a smashing at the end. Maybe it was the round 1 game when I had to kill one of those storms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Round 6 was against Lord Bex. This is a pretty well-known player. I think he's got pretty high trophy count, yeah. And he plays this kind of a Reaper, Rush Reaper combo deck with the Standard Bearer. Pretty popular these days, even with the quote-unquote nerf to Standard Bearer. It's unclear if it's actually a nerf. Oh yeah, so this is one who gets, you see he gets the Storm Elemental, and I get pretty lucky where my boneyard lands. So he's putting a lot of pressure on me right from the get-go. But I do get the boneyard, and I get 6 skeletons right in his face, killing that Storm Elemental, which is critical. Now, he probably used that too soon, so I decided to go ahead and attack, not knowing he had arrows. A lot of these decks don't play arrows, so now it's a little dicey, and I decided to go for the Specter just because I want to stop what he's doing in this lane. It gives him the opportunity to use his other Standard Bearer as well, which is what I was hoping he would do. Now here I really need to get the Skull King, because I need something in every lane, and we get it, which is going to slow down his attack enough. And I figured he would Standard Bearer here, so I went ahead and put my Specter in that lane, thinking that that's exactly where the Standard Bearer would go, and I played the Meteor there just to get rid of anything in that lane. Okay, so at this point, though, now I think my opponent's in a lot of trouble. Because all the cards he has aren't very helpful for what's about to happen. And now he's used his arrows, and yeah, it's all over. Yep. So if you can fend off the early attack, this deck is just overwhelming against those kinds of decks. And again, like I said before, this deck isn't really a rush deck. I mean, it actually has a lot of strength when you get up to 10 and 12 mana. So round 7, I didn't know this player playing some sort of a power deck. Not necessarily a great draw for him. He didn't get any. I think he had 2 crystals in his deck, and he didn't get either. Again, this is one of those, you can play the Boneyard here, or you can play the Skull Queen. I decided to play the Skull Queen. I decided to play her in the top lane. And again, this time my opponent... So that nerf to Skull Queen means that the Spike statue will kill her. But in the meantime, look at all the damage that's going to be done to my opponent's castle. I mean, about half of his castle health is just eliminated. And then I've got a second Boneyard. Okay, so he's got a second Spike statue. That's good. But at the same time, so much of the damage has been done. I don't even need a giant Specter. I mean, those skeletons in the top lane are still doing work. So, okay, I've had an early hit. It seems like I've petered out. But again, this deck doesn't necessarily peter out. And now here we go. And I played this one all the way at the back. I don't know if you noticed that, because I want to play the giant Specter. If you play it up too close, your opponent often has a chance to, they often have a chance to play arrows before you can get your Specter out. When it's all the way at the back, it's harder for them to play arrows. And here, again, I was doing enough damage that it didn't really matter. My opponent had just gotten to 12 mana. I wasn't able to play the dragon, but I had done enough damage that the Meteor was going to do it. And that's often how you can win these games. You just have to do enough damage and then use the Meteor to finish them off. 10, 9, 8. So round 8, I didn't know this opponent. Kind of a funky deck because it has the Ape Pirate in it. But yeah, this was pretty clearly that kind of what I used to, or what I referred to as blitz decks. Yeah, and you can see what my opponent does. He just pretty much plays every card he can as fast as he can, which is not really the right way to play standard bearer decks. But a lot of people don't know what they're doing. So there, I mean, again, he played that and he got pretty lucky. But now he's used both of his standard bearers, and boy, he sure wishes he had one, and he doesn't. So that's why you don't just want to play him as fast as possible. And basically what's going to happen here is my attack just gets there faster once the Skull Queen's on the board. Okay, so round 9. This player, I'm pretty sure I've played before. But I don't know, maybe in some... daily or whatever game, daily mode games or whatever. But I thought I recognized this opponent. And you'll see we're both playing similar decks. The difference is he is using Shock, which is, I mean, the idea behind Shock is to go after Black Witches. You saw earlier a game I used my poison on one of the Black Witches to reduce her health and let the skeletons kill her. Yeah, that's the idea of Shock here. So I don't know about blitzing out that that group of skeletons that fast, but he did. So we're both kind of hammering on each other here. Now I wanted to play that quickly because I know he's coming for my Skull Queen, and I know I need to get rid of his Specter, and that's what the poison does. And so we both spent a lot here. He's in pretty decent shape, but now all of my mana cards are coming, and I'm going to go after that Skull Queen. And that's exactly what I do. Put everything up there to get the Skull Queen, the Skull King, because it's such a key card of the deck. Even the Specter goes up there. And now we're rolling. Sure, he's got something in the middle lane. We'll throw down a poison. That'll eliminate those, which means that when he plays that Specter, it's just not going to have enough oomph. And that's the idea of poison in this deck. Again, I'm always holding back cards because I want to get to 6 mana and play the Boneyard. Had lots of options there at the end for winning, and ultimately got the win. So that was a big difference in our decks, is that he's playing Shock, which can't really do a lot against my deck, whereas I have 2 cards that can get after his deck. One is Poison, and the other is the Meteor. He was using neither of those. Okay, the last round against an opponent I definitely did not know. Not a super high trophy opponent, playing a very odd deck. I think this was a pretty quick win, if I recall. Yeah, I think this one even has Giant Growth in it, which is a strange card. So there, I didn't play the Mana Ritual right away. You could have went Mana Ritual, Skull King, but I just don't want to do that. I don't want to expend everything right away. I'd rather play it with a little more patience. I still have 2 Mana Rituals. I can still go for something here. Here I decide I'm going to go ahead and play the Skeletons in the middle lane, with the idea being to play that. The Specter against his Druid. He Giant Gross the Druid, which is very strange because it did nothing at all. And again, we see Metamorph, not very good against skeleton decks. And here I can just play the Skull Queen. I'm being patient. I'm not playing that Mana Ritual. A lot of people would play it, but I'm being patient to see what my opponent does. I might draw a Boneyard, and I want to have 6 cards in my hand if I draw the Boneyard. So yeah, that was the grand tournament. Just kind of ran right through it. Didn't take all too long. 23 minutes from that game. Then game 2 was 40 minutes. So there was about 20 minutes total to get through the grand tournament. In any case, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you have enjoyed my videos over the last year or so that I've done them. Hope you learned something, as always, from my videos, and hope you learned a little bit about how FRABELLO plays this deck. If you have questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I will still get back to you on those. But this will probably be it for me in terms of Castle Crush videos. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and have a great day. Bye-bye.